Are you excited? We're almost completely through. I know it's been a long, I guess since this is the winter semester, it's been a long 3 weeks. But you've been troopers, and I've enjoyed every bit of it, and I hope you have also enjoyed every bit of it. If you haven't, I'm sorry. My name is Dana Golden, and today we're going to continue with our look at capacity markets with a take on capacity market design. So what is market design? It's something a lot of the people in this department and a lot of microeconomists are very interested in. It's the process of creating rules and frameworks that define how a market operates, ensuring efficiency, transparency, and alignment with policy objectives. So key elements include market structure, the types of participants allowed, products and market platforms, pricing mechanisms, trading protocols, and settlement procedures, and market performance, ensuring competition, reliability, and innovation. Effective market design balances economic efficiency and regulatory and societal goals. So the effective market design on capacity markets is a mechanism to ensure that sufficient generation capacity is available to meet future demand and enhance grid reliability. So how do you think about market design in this context? You look at pricing signals. How are generators incentivized to provide new capacity, reliability standards? How should capacity requirements be calculated and enforced? And who should be allowed to participate? So the challenges include how do you avoid overprocurement or underprocurement? And how do you think about renewable resources? So we've been talking about these challenges for a while, and now we're supposed to be talking about a framework for thinking about designing a market to deal with them. So these are done through auctions. These capacity markets are auctions. So the objectives of the auction are to ensure efficiency and resource allocation, promote transparency and competition, of course, align with policy goals, most importantly, reliability and decarbonization. We want the grid to work. We want everyone to have power, but we also would ideally like to decarbonize at a fast enough rate to stop climate change. Key design features. You have a pricing mechanism. You can either have uniform pricing or a pay-as-bid mechanism. You can have either single round or multiple round bids. You can choose which participants qualify to bid and whether or not they're all going to bid in the same market or different markets. So you want to avoid market power and ensure competitive behavior. You want to make sure that large players aren't able to manipulate the market or purposely withhold capacity to raise prices, and you want to manage uncertainty and risk for participants. There actually was a big concern with Texas's. They've recently done some things that allow for scarcity pricing that look kind of like a capacity market. They're not. We'll talk about next class, but they recently have created the calculation of the scarcity price that's dependent on how much you add to the market, and in order to raise this price, there's some evidence that some bidders and some competitors have actually purposefully early retired some generators in order to raise prices for ERCOT and pass those prices on to consumers. So regulatory and policy considerations, compliance with legal frameworks, and alignment with environmental and reliability standards. So in NYISO, it's a seasonal, very fast auction design, 6 months ahead. With a uniform pricing mechanism, the demand curve is based on installed capacity. There's limited ability to add demand response, and then there's a really strong locational signals. You saw here A through K, so that's what 1, 2, 3. I feel bad. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different zones for capacity. There's a high degree of signals of location, and then this also exists to some degree in PJM, but also very strongly in ISO New England. This is done by zone. New England also really goes after imports. They allow for non-ISO New England generators to participate in this market. And then PJM and New England are both 3 years ahead. So differences reflect regional policy priorities and market conditions. And then locational signals in ISO and ISO New England help ensure reliability constrained zones. You also have an interesting market quirk, which are incremental auctions. And these are held after the primary capacity auction to adjust the amount of procured capacity. So you might determine that you have too much or too little, and so you have another incremental auction to help people either bid more into it after the fact or sell their additional capacity requirements to allow for you to have less of an overcapacity buy. So this allows you to address changes in demand forecast and resource availability, and allows market participants to buy or sell capacity commitments closer to the delivery period. The benefits is it enhances flexibility in capacity markets and provides a mechanism to optimize resource allocation as conditions change. Of course, there's a shorter lead time compared to primary auctions, and sometimes you are worried that participants will be abusing this process because there's a focus on incremental adjustments rather than full capacity procurement. And some people might bid into the capacity market and then bid out in the incremental auctions under the idea that they'll still get some of the payments. So how do incremental auctions work in PJM? They're held 3 times between the base residual auction and the delivery year, so every year up to the delivery year, and they're based on the idea that things change. You might not build that plant you wanted to, and PJM might not need you, or PJM might need more of you. It allows you to adjust capacity commitments in a particular year to reflect changes in demand or supply. Key functions allow capacity resources to offer additional commitments if available, and enables load-serving entities to procure additional capacity if needed. So participants submit bids and offers based on updated forecasting resource conditions, and then now you adjust the capacity requirements. This allows for a more accurate match, and it reduces the risk of over and under procurement. So in ISO New England, you have a similar thing called called the adjusted forward capacity market, which allows you to change commitments as you get closer to the delivery year. You address changes in system needs due to updated forecasts or unexpected resource additions. And so these are known in ISO New England as reconfiguration auctions, and sometimes they're held annually, monthly before the commitment period, to take into account that there can be real changes in what is needed or what people are willing to procure. So both demand and supply side adjustments, load serving entities can adjust their obligations, and resources can modify their commitments by buying back obligations or offering additional capacity. And it results in incremental trades that align capacity resources with updated system needs. So how do transmission constraints, something we talked about a few times in the class, interact with capacity markets? They limit the ability to transfer power between regions. They create locational differences in supply and demand dynamics, and then they can create this weird trade-off where you want to have a granular enough capacity market to encourage capacity procured based on regional needs, but you don't want to over power and give market power to capacity providers in a specific region. Transmission limits can lead to different capacity clearing prices across zones, and it also can create incentives for investment both in generation but also in transmission. It's hard to determine what granularity you need here. Examples of interaction: ISO New England, NYISO, and PJM all use zonal capacity markets to reflect transmission constraints, and these ensure that reliability and load pockets can exist and reduce dependence on long-range transmission. Another interesting feature of capacity markets is you can opt out of capacity markets. Certain entities can choose to meet their resource obligations outside of centralized capacity markets. These entities are usually utilities, and these utilities have decided they don't want to participate in capacity markets because they think the structure doesn't work out for them. So they want greater plan over resource planning and procurement, and they have a desire to avoid exposure to market clearing prices in the capacity market. So this helps support self-sufficiency over or local resource preferences. So the way you opt out is you submit an alternative compliance framework, such as a bilateral contract or self-supply agreement. You show that you have the capacity through something else. Someone else has agreed to provide the capacity somehow else, And then you provide that to the ISO approves, and you as a utility don't participate in the capacity market. This stuff is challenging because you don't have the centralized market signal. You might overpay or underpay. And you have to balance local resource adequacy with the broader system needs. You have to figure out what is the actual effect on the full system of these bilateral contracts. So PJM's fixed resource requirement option, which is an option for opting out of capacity markets. This allows load-serving entities like utilities to meet their capacity obligation outside of PJM's capacity market or the reliability pricing program. To be eligible, load-serving entities must demonstrate they can meet adequate capacity resources plus reserve requirements, and they must commit to doing it for a minimum of 5 years. And the concern here is people would opt out or opt into capacity markets based on what's convenient and based on how high the price is. And this would actually not serve the purpose of the capacity market, which is to be a long-term mechanism to encourage optimal investment, encourage reliability. Resources can include owned generation, so maybe you want to opt out because you actually own a lot of generation yourself, or demand response can also be one. So also, as a load-serving entity, you might own generation that is enough to fulfill your own generation needs. But you might also participate in a capacity market as a supplier, even if you're not participating in the centralized capacity auctions. There's greater autonomy over capacity procurement, and there's ability to align resource choices with local policy objectives. I know I feel bad saying this, but I think of this when I think about PJM's fixed resource requirement. I think about Bernie Sanders, and I think about him running, what is that city? Burlington, Vermont. And I think of him talking to the local utility provider. He's like, gosh darn it, we're not going to have any fossil fuels. We're just going to have entirely solar and wind. Sure, Burlington, Vermont. Sure, let's align your resource choices with local policy objectives, and let's see if your grid can sustain it. So ISO New England and NYISO opt out by self-supplying capacity. By the way, I wasn't saying that was a thing that happened. It's what I picture when I think about local load-serving entities choosing to opt out of capacity markets because they want to fit their own resource objectives. ISO New England obviously opt out by self-supplied capacity resources, and what they do is load-serving entities can declare that they have enough self-supplied resources. Usually, this means that they are building it themselves and generating themselves. NYISO has the same ability, and this helps meet local reliability needs if you have a particular utility company that has a different need than everyone else. ISO New England and NYISO also allow for bilateral transactions as a way to offset capacity obligations. So you can still participate in the market, but you can also use bilateral transactions to offset some of the obligations rather than completely opting out, as you would if you said that you had total self-supplied capacity resources. So the challenge is it requires detailed planning coordination to ensure reliability as a potential reduction in market liquidity because you've removed these potential resources. So one thing, I'm going to leave it here actually. I'm going to leave it here, and the next time we're going to finish up market design. Thank you. Have a great day.